And yeah, I mean, so long as there's entertainment, that's what they say. So I mean, they should go. My two cents is they should go. Like not like just go have a clean slate, bring people in, and maybe we'll see where we can go from there. Because last weekend, who's this guy? Checo.
So I was just reading a tweet at the minute. So thanks, Will.
We
Okay, deal.
came back and I got a penalty, and I'm like, this may not happen. And previously, I remember is it in Silverstone where Checo went off the track and still like kept his position. So I don't understand what's going on. We all ask for consistency, but I don't think it's going to be there so long as the same people are running the show. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, order Cameron Irwin if you want to go ahead, and then it's Anthony, Charlie, Vims, and Baxby.
Oi. Congratulations, Rory, and all Max fans across the world. Said through gritted teeth, mind. Rory, this is. Are we here again? Jesus Christ! What I do? Listen, and I will let me put on my objective hat for a second about the rules and regs. Similar to Josephine, I haven't looked into them in sufficient detail to say whether, and I didn't even. I was distracted from the Charles and Checo incident. I wasn't even paying attention to that. I'll come on to what I was paying attention to in short order. But I can't say definitively whether the rules were followed to the letter of the law. But because FIA has history for not following them, everyone on the space just presumes, like I am kind of, that they've done a dodginess again, and it's like bloody Jonathan Wheatley combing through the rules after the race. The optics are just bad all round, right? I've come off my stream just now. I thought, you know what, Max has done a madness. I was super impressed by Max's ability, and nobody's talked about this on Sky Sports, by his ability to nail the 50% distance and get the 19 points right in that short space of time. He's done it with seconds left. He was gapping Charles Leclerc all race. He was driving like a madman. Again, like memory goes back to Senna and Donington and Senna, all these crazy. I thought it was an incredible drive, and I was super impressed. Came off the stream, was like, game on for the championship. Let's see what happens next week. Clearly, he's going to win it there. And then I'm like, what? He's won it this one. He's won it this race. How does that even work? Why are we doing? It's 19 points, right, for 50? No, it's 4 points. What? It's 4 points. Since when, how, where, and why? And then Jonathan Wheatley, I see the optics, Jonathan Wheatley combing for, like, what are we doing, FIA? This again. And again, I'm not saying that things weren't followed to the letter of the law. I haven't investigated it yet. And I might not even bother because I don't really care at this point. But sadly for the FIA, they're a serial killer right now as far as being consistently inconsistent. So 99% of us is going to presume that this is another madness. FIA have tinkered again. They wanted to give Max the championship and they've done it, which poorly, sadly for them, might not be the case, but none of us can even be bothered to go and verify either way at this point. And what's worse, Rory, finally, is that drive from Max, bruv, was absolutely bonkers. I know the car is sick. That RB18 is incredible, and testament to that fact is the way that I wouldn't expect Checo Perez to be able to harass Charles Leclerc like he was harassing him in the closing stage of the Grand Prix in equal machinery. So that's proof positive that RB18 car is a madness. But doing a cheeky calc and extrapolating Max's lap times, I didn't think he was going to be able to get it done and complete lap 27 in time, and he just put his foot down and nailed it in dodgy conditions. And I'm sad that that's not the talking point. Being a driver and a fan of racing and automotive pugilism and all that good stuff, I'm sad that that's not the talking point on the back of this race. And yet again, hello darkness, my old friend.
Yeah,
we're talking about FIA. Just that, Rory. Thanks, mate.
No, it's all right. That's fair enough. That's fair, Cameron. Like, it's always that. Even if any driver had a great drive, even like the battle between Lewis and Ocon, it's overshadowed because of the controversy that's happened. Like they're going back to Wheatley. Wheatley was looking through the rules because he didn't even know the rule existed, basically. And Mercedes, Ted confirmed Mercedes, was it Mike Elliott? I think, not Mike Elliott, someone else. Their sporting director, he was reading through the rules as well because they couldn't believe what was going on. Like Wheatley didn't know. He was making sure like Red Bull didn't even think they won the championship until like when F1 said it. Like you saw some were happy, some of the Red Bull team were like celebrating, some were like thinking this is not right. Like so, yeah. I saw a tweet there that Bonotto said on Sky Italia they might. It looks like they're going to appeal Charles's penalty. He said where's the tweet actually? 1 minute. So this is the quote from Ferrari. So he's basically saying how quickly he took the decision. It was ridiculous and unacceptable. Last race it took forever for it to happen, but he said we will protest in the appropriate offices. So that's what he said. And yeah, I need to let my speakers go. So it goes Anthony Charlie Vims Baxby. So go ahead, Anthony.
All right. So my only question now is, if Charles did gain a unfair advantage, which I don't see how that's possible because he was still in P2 when he did cross, and Checo was still behind him. I don't understand how that rule applies, but that's neither here nor there. My only concern now is tomorrow is going to be very interesting. If Red Bull car has been the dominant car this season, let's keep it a buck. But if they have breached the rules of the budget cap, how is it going to look if they do backtrack and they don't get points deducted from last year? Because as Toto Wolff said last week, they've gained an advantage not through last season, but also this season and potentially next season. What is going to happen tomorrow? That's my only question. What are the FIA going to do tomorrow? When they've came out and said that if teams have breached the budget cap, that team will either be deducted points or championship will be stripped. Now, if they backtrack on this, what is this going to say about the sport as a whole? Can anyone answer that question? Rory, can you answer that question? Josh, can you answer that question, that if they do back out of, they talk in the big talk, but they can't walk the walk, what does this say about the FIA as a whole? What does it say?
I'll be honest, I could see the constructors. I only can see constructors' points being deducted, and I think Max will keep his championship.
But this is the thing. This is a major, from what the understanding of overspending on a budget cap, and Rory was on the other space the other day, and I was talking to you. They were saying that their championship would have to be stripped. They would get points deducted. CFD wind tunnel will be significantly reduced. You see where I'm coming from? It's not a minor breach, it's a significant breach, because they would have an advantage going into next season. This will have a knock-on effect for next season for if it is Red Bull. Now, and Aston Martin as well, going into next season. So, yeah, I'm going to be very interested to find out, what's going to happen tomorrow with this. Because if they don't set a precedence next season, every other team are going to look at this and say, okay, there's a budget cap in place. Okay, let's breach that budget cap. And I guarantee if any other teams breach the budget cap, are they going to enforce the rules that they put in place, that teams are going to be deducted for the next season? It comes to CFD, wind tunnel, constructors' points will be deducted as well. Is that one thing that they are going to stick to? Or they're just going to sweep it under the carpet like they did with Ferrari back in 2019?
I know Ross Brawn made those comments back in 2019. The thing is, Ross Brawn works for F1, not the FI, so they didn't make the rules. The FI makes the rules. So F1, you can say Ross Brawn, if he says that he works for F1, and that should be, but it's if he was working for the FI, yes, and he backtracked on that, yes, but it's F1, like, so. But that's my argument to that, Ross Brawn's point.
But even if these, from what we saw on the TV last week, what they put up in regards to the minor breach and the significant breach of the rules, and that's by the FIA, if they don't follow through, what does that entail? What what would it say regarding the sport? Again, another inconsistency. Do we then need to they then need to get a independent panel that can challenge the FIA in regards to rules, decision making when it comes to rules? Because it seems like the FIA, they don't know what they're doing this season. I thought last season about this season, it's just like they do not have a clue of what they are doing. They just make stuff as they go along. It's like no one has a clear idea of how the rules are supposed to be in place. And back to Baxley's point in regards to Lando and Verstappen. When Lando was asked about it yesterday, Lando clearly opened up and said that yes, that he would have got a penalty if the roles were reversed. So for him to talk to Max and they've either cleared the air or whatever, I just think that's another farce. You cannot put someone's life in danger, regardless of the fact if you're warming up your tires and that you see a guy coming up behind you. What are you going to say, that you never saw him in your mirrors and you've got those big mirrors to see if a car's coming up behind you? If another driver did that, they would have literally been, they would have get called up. I know Lewis has done that. Lewis has been called up by the stewards. Any other driver, they'll be called up by the stewards. But because it's Red Bull, it's just like Red Bull cannot be touched. This season, it looks like Red Bull cannot be touched this season in regards to anything that Max does. And it's just like, why is it one rule for one team, one rule for another team this season? It just does not make sense. I think that they need to sit down next season and discuss regarding how they set the rules going forward, because you can't just make up the rules on the spot as you see fit. It doesn't make sense. It's just going to make the sport unenjoyable for people to watch going forwards. Like, if this is what we had this season, what's going to happen next season? We're not going to have a season when there's no controversy because of the FIA.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
You know what I'm saying? We're not going to have that, and it's going to continue happening until either the FIA have to be challenged by an independent body. Like, they literally have to. We cannot have this going forward. We cannot have this going forward, because it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse until it's going to be like, to what end? Why have we got rules in place when you're making up rules as you go along? Like, you cannot, to the letter of the law, you cannot enforce what you have written. What is the point in you writing that bloody rule book in the first place when you're just going to make up the rules as you see fit?
Anthony, do you mind if I just really sneak in quick on that point?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
And this is what I was saying when we were talking about Abu Dhabi, when we were talking about stuff in December.
Yeah.
And I said that if the other teams don't put pressure on the FIA to sort their house out, it will not end with Red Bull and Mercedes. It will come after them. And look what's happened. They shafted Ferrari. They shafted Carlos in that race.
Yeah.
And now the FIA's decision-making skills has now come after Ferrari when they're in the run for a championship. I said this would happen, and they didn't do anything. And now the FIA's infections are spreading out across the grid. Like, it was so predictable. It's infuriating. Why didn't they say something? And this could have been appropriately investigated. It could have been independently investigated, but they didn't do anything. And now look where we are.
Well, they know that they didn't want. I'm going to let other people talk. So sorry, guys. I know you lot got your hands up. I'll be here a couple of minutes. Now, Joes, this is what I'm saying. Like, I wanted them to have an independent body, because the FIA, they're going to continue to do this season after season, where they put rules in place, but they don't stick to them. Like, I'll go back to last season. Last season, just like, it literally burned me. Charlie Whiting would never accepted any of the teams to do their lobbying. He would have never accepted that, but Michael Massey did. and then the FIA used Michael Massey as a scapegoat. But Michael Massey himself, he was weak as a guy. He was weak. You didn't have the balls to stand up to Red Bull or Mercedes in regards to the team lobbying last season by both teams. It's unprecedented. Now they want to talk about, yes, that they've had an agreement in regards to how the rules are set for this season. And no, you haven't. I think that president of the FIA, I really think that he needs to step down, because like he has not got a fucking clue of what to do in regards to enforcing rules. He's supposed to be director of the FIA, but yet you cannot tell your stewards what is right from what is wrong. Step down, let someone else who's got a brain, who knows in regards to enforcing rules in place, because I guarantee you next season we're going to have another controversy. And if Mercedes, I'm going to put it out there, if Mercedes get their shit together next season, we're going to have controversy with Lewis and with Lewis next season if they do get their shit together. I guarantee you. They knew that doing this now, Max would win his second world title. Yes, they've had a dominant car, but again, you go back to the budget cap. If this was any other team, I'd still have the same energy. If it's Mercedes who broke, what's it called? You would see how fast Mercedes would get reprimanded. Literally, they would get reprimanded. Lewis got reprimanded in Brazil for his rear wing, and the stewards threw everything at him, but Lewis prevailed and told him a big fuck you, and he won the race after everything that they did. But it seems that Red Bull cannot be touched, and these are the questions we want to know. Why have you delayed this budget cap ruling? Because you wanted Max to win the champion, and then tomorrow you're going to come up with the most excuses to say, yes, we've looked into what they have done. They're going to have a secret conversation next season, a secret conversation behind closed doors that we won't know exactly what has happened, and that's going to be it. Aston Martin will probably end up getting fined, but with Red Bull, they're just going to get a slap on the wrist. And it's just like, you need to set a precedent of a governing body. You need to put rules in place. You cannot just abide by not having rules. So I want to see next season if they do have an independent body to challenge the FIA, because if they don't, we are not going to have clean racing. We are just going to continue having this over and over again until people are going to say, why am I watching this sport? I'd rather watch NASCAR or MotoGP or any other sport where there's no controversy. But unfortunately, yeah.
Andrew, come on,
You're
man.
totally right.
Wind it up.
You're
Wind
totally
it up, man.
right.
No, all right, Charlie, go on, man. Like, no,
I was almost going to sleep here.
All right, man. Look, I've said my piece. Sorry for venting and all that, but it's stuff that needs to be said, because people are scared to open up their mouth and say what it is. They think that,
You've said
you
some truths today, Anthony. Thank you so much for your points. They're really, really decent. You know, Charlie, take it.
To be honest, Anthony, I understand. You know, it's good to have these spaces where we can vent. But I've actually forgotten, because there are some of the things that you said in the beginning that I totally 100% agree with, but I can't remember them, because I was actually going to start off speaking about them. The one thing I can remember, though, is obviously everybody has watched this race, yeah? And I was thinking about the budget cap. And you actually saw the budget cap in operation. We all remember Lewis's dice with Ocon. It's designed for closer racing, and that's what we saw today. And if you listen to Lewis's interview afterwards, he wasn't complaining, because that's why they go racing. It's not about disappearing off into the distance, you know, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes into the distance. That's a car that's operating without the budget cap. Yeah. Now, getting back to the budget cap, because that's the only thing I really want to speak about. You know, Max has won it, benefit of the budget cap, right? That's what happens when you can develop a car. I mean, there are so many things we can talk about. I think it's RBPT. They had cars on the dyno. Honda stepped down, and then, all of a sudden, Porsche want to get in. No, they want too much of our business. Let's get Porsche out. Oh, Honda is still here. Okay, let's celebrate the fact that Honda is still with us. You know, did they ever leave? I don't think so, you know. But there are ways around it, and Red Bull are great exponents of the art in looking into great areas that they can take and make an advantage. And that's what they do, yeah? Thea, we've got this cap coming tomorrow, yeah? And we'll probably find out that hey presto, Red Bull haven't really gone that far over the mark, yeah, but they have, and you can see it in the car, yeah. Mercedes, Ferrari have built a really, really good car this season, so you'll give them that. But if you look at where Mercedes are, people talk about the WM13. That wasn't an aerodynamic thing that we saw today. That was an engine. It was because of the engine freeze, yeah, they didn't have the power to go past the Renault. They didn't have the power. That's the cap in work, ladies and gentlemen, right? Whatever else you may think about this season, that's how the cap is designed to work. It is designed to bring everybody together so that we can see the closer racing and we can believe in it. We can believe it because we see it. Now, look at the Red Bull. Tell me that is a car that hasn't been developed. If somebody can tell me that is a car that hasn't developed and is operated under the cost cap, I want to see it. The other thing is the cost cap. How did it leak in the first place if it wasn't somebody within the FIA who wanted this known, right? Everybody's saying, oh, it was just something that came out of the blue. That's bullshit, yeah? Somebody within the FIA knows that there is something wrong. Having an independent body, well, all we're going to have is two sets of people arguing with each other. Yeah, F1 at the moment is dying a death. I don't want it to because I love the sport. But last year I said this is about entertainment. It is no longer about sport. And hey presto, what are we seeing? Yeah, we are seeing things that Drive to Survive is going to absolutely relish. A car under red flag going at speed. Yeah, so we've got two conflicting issues here. Yeah, in the rule book, it states that if you're under a safety car, you are actually allowed to catch up the field. So was Gasly doing anything wrong? And then we have another conflicting situation where there's a great big truck on the track. FIA probably never saw it because of all of the rain. It is what we are seeing nowadays, guys, be in no doubt. It is an absolute farce. The fact that somebody else, thank God, never lost their lives today was more down to luck than anything else. So listen in tomorrow. I hope and pray that I am wrong. This is the one time I really want to be wrong. And FIA, they will announce that Red Bull have breached the budget cap by, let's say, even if it's only even if it's only 1 million or 2 million, or even 500,000, that's still worth almost a quarter to half a second of time on the track. Yeah, but it won't get announced. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So we're just going to be left like they were today, totally surprised that, hey presto, it was a timed race, yeah, and we ran to a time, but because we saw the checkered flag, they get maximum points. So there's so much confusion that even Rod was it the guy from Red Bull was actually looking down, through the rule book because it caught even him by surprise. We are going to see something really develop here, either as Anthony was saying and Rory initiated that, maybe there should be another body added to another body. Yeah, but I think that might be too much for some of the big teams. Yeah, so who's to say? We could be seeing the end of the FIA side of Formula One coming to an end, and everybody else says, you know what, fuck this, we'll go off. There are enough manufacturers now for us to make another series, and we will base it on sound principles, sound rules, and we'll move on from there. I really hope that doesn't happen, but I would not be at all surprised if it did. Thank you.
I think you're right there, Charlie. I think there's a lot to be worried about for the future of the sport. I think it's the FIA is sort of disintegrating before our eyes, to be honest. But yeah, great point. Baxter, you're up. Baxter.
Oh, hello. I didn't think it was me. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it was Vims. Vims, I'm so sorry. Do you want to just
Yeah, I was
jump
gonna
in
say.
real quick?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, yeah. I think today I'm glad Max won because then I'm not gaslighted for the next 4 races about a championship fight that doesn't exist. So, like, let it be over. Let's let it be done with. But I think, like, the most important thing that happened today was, like Sky Sports. I don't know who watches Sky Sports, but, like, they spent, like, 30 minutes while, like, everyone was waiting, telling us that Pierre was in the wrong because he was driving too fast. But, like, there was a tractor on track. Whether he was driving slowly or fast, he could have aquaplaned and hit the like tractor. And like it's just annoying that he even still has to go to, I think, the steward still and explain himself or whatever. And that's just horrible. And I think even like Charles was affected by it as well. I feel apparently he almost like felt like crying. And I just saw Pierre like talking to Sky, and I think he was crying before because it's just unacceptable behavior. Like somebody died because of a tractor, but no, let's go around in circles and say, oh, you're driving too fast. So that's the big issue here. You're driving too fast. So if Pierre had had an accident, God forbid, what were they gonna tell us then? Were they gonna tell us, oh, he was driving too fast? No, they were gonna like make excuses and find an issue with either his car or not tell us the truth and skip over issues. They care more about like little issues, and this is a big issue. They put a tractor on a racetrack. It's not like this is the first time. Like this is not the first time it's happened, and they've already got an incident. Somebody died because of that. But no, they won't learn their lesson. They'll rather not take accountability for their actions, and that's like really rude to like everybody who's watching. And then they try to gaslight us with statements that don't say anything.
I think the really interesting thing about that, I was talking to someone earlier when not long after it happened, and it was about the race director, because of it being Freitas, who's from World Endurance Championship, who said that the kind of the procedure in that race series is when they do have double waved yellows and they do have cars going slow on track, they still bring their vehicles out. So it's almost like the race director's working from his own rule book rather than the Formula one, which is honestly a concern. But it also ties into what I think Baxter was saying yesterday about the speed of which these people have been put into the positions, because they are, they're trying to catch up with the rules, particularly in the race directors' positions. But when they need to do things quickly, they're reverting to what they know, and that could have been extremely dangerous today. Baxter, go for it.
Yeah, I was actually going to reiterate that point. Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, Whittick and Freitas were bought in whilst the cars were launching. Let's not forget, Michael Masi, who should have been out the door as soon as the checkered flag flew in Abu Dhabi, was still race director up until I think after the McLaren car launch. So I think these guys they've come in. Have they done a good job? No, absolutely not. They need to be more consistent. And I think what they need to do in the off-season is they need to sit down together, thrash things out, get an idea of how they are going to govern sport. And therefore, they're both working from the same page. And they can do this with Herbie Blash as well. And then they can say to the teams, right, this is how we're going to govern. And we're going to be hard asses for the next few years, and just get their house in order. And then therefore we see less of these controversies happen on and off the track. I just think I mean the whole thing with the tractor today, it was at the same track as well. It was the same track where Jules had his accident, and it was just the whole thing was just shambolically handled. And I mean also like Pierre's been quoted as saying that he was 9 seconds slower than his Delta. And yet they're accusing him of going too fast. I mean, come on. At the end of the day, you've got to communicate. You've got to communicate with him that there's a tractor. You have to communicate with him. So, the whole thing's bad.
Can I say something about the 9 seconds Delta as well?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, it's because like on Sky Sports Korean again, like right now, it was like, oh, apparently there's a red flag Delta as well. So apparently he's still in the wrong because the red flag was like 1 second after he passed the tractor. Apparently he's still
Well,
in the wrong. So there's a grey area as well. So their real book is wrong again. So I don't know.
Well, first of all, Karun is wrong because you could see on, and he pointed this out himself on the SkyPad, the red flag happened like just before he got there. Like it was just as he was coming up to the accident that they flew the red flag. I mean, as Brundle put on Twitter, Brundle was absolutely spot on. As soon as Carlos Sainz crashed, they should have thrown a red flag. As soon as he crashed, because as soon as the advertising hoarding off the barrier came on, and then they should have thrown a red flag. Yeah, because Lewis was in danger of completely taking Carlos out. Lewis was very close to taking him out there. I just want to pivot quickly because I know people are going to come back to all the shenanigans of today. And I think one thing that's gone forgotten with all of the controversy and with Max winning the title and all of that, whilst I've never been his biggest fan, I want to give a massive shout out to Seb Vettel. What a weekend he's had. Top 10 qualifying. He recovers from a mistake at the start. Brilliant strategy call by both him and Aston Martin. He's had a supreme weekend. And his loss, Suzuka. We are gonna miss him at the end of the season, and I think it needs to be recognised how good a weekend he's had in an absolute shit bucket of a car.
Yeah, props where it's due. He loves Suzuka. He said so yesterday, and you can tell that he really enjoys the track in any conditions. It's a shame that Seb's last race here had to sort of be this cut short, drenched, soggy thing. But who was next out of Mary and
I'm
the
back.
bearded Arianda? You can make that decision, Rory. I was
apologies.
juggling some plates there, mate.
Yeah. If I was quiet, I had to go say goodbye to my loving parents because they're going to a wedding, and I'm in charge of the house. So, KS will house party, Super Max party's happening. It's Mary, and then it's the bearded Ayada, and then Cameron. So, Mary, go ahead.
Hi, Rory. I was just going to say, I think I've said this a few times. I think there's still going to be a delay tomorrow. FIA just wanted to crown Max. That was all what they wanted to do today. I think the reason why the cost cap, sorry, I'm going to run. I think the reason why the cost cap came about in the first place is I think there was a deal between Mercedes and the FIA regarding AD last year. I think this is sort of doing it. But what Josephine said is actually true. They're penalising every other driver, not just Lewis, because I'm a Lewis fan. It's every other driver now, and that's getting out of hand. They're slowly killing the sport. I can't see anything happening tomorrow. I think they'll delay it again, but no. I was so annoyed that Horner, he couldn't even remember the year that Jules died. Oh, I think it's 5 or 6 years ago. No, Horner, it's actually 7 years ago when he died. You can't even respect the man, But this is getting too much for me, man. I've loved this sport for years, and they're just so all right, well, penalise that guy. Oh, right. Oh, you were for Red Bull? No, we'll let you away with it. It's becoming like that. It's when they penalised Leclerc, they were quick off the mark with that. But yet, when it was Checo, no, it'll be investigated after the race. So clearly, the FIA are just giving Red Bull a sort of leeway, and any other driver, no, they're getting penalised straight away. It's no fair on any other driver. And the recovery vehicle that was out wasn't even in a safe place. So I'm glad that nobody got hurt because of that. But yeah, that's all I've got to say.
Thanks, Barry. I've just shared a few tweets of space. It is Pierre, his interview about I haven't seen it, but the quote is that he got lucky today. About the saying about he's very lucky that he didn't hit the tractor, on the track, and one from Perez you saw on Twitter during the red flag, Lando and Perez on Twitter making their feelings known. I don't think Lando probably tweet. I don't think Perez will tweet. I say he probably told someone to tweet or something like that, but still. And then so the order is the bearded. Oh, Mary.
Rory, you'll be glad that your hero Latifi actually got points. I couldn't believe when I seen him in 8th. I went, what? My first spot was you.
Thank you, Mary. Me and Josephine are very happy at the minute. It's because we've had to struggle with no Latifi points all season, and then he finally gets points. So at least he can go out on a win, that he can prove that he got points this season, and like that. But it's the bearded, Cameron, and Charlie.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. No, nice space, guys. I'm a couple of points on my side. It's I think the FIA is really doing a disservice to all of us. And it's obviously clear, we all know from last year, everyone has been speaking on this. But my worry sometimes, and I'm a Ferrari fan, so my frustrations are a lot with my own team and performance through the year and all that. But my other worry sometimes is, what is the role of the teams, the other teams, in really ensuring that the so-called referee is doing their job? And maybe all of us, we get upset, but I sometimes feel like the teams get so much money themselves out of Formula One and the mother company and all of that, that they don't have the appetite sometimes to take these things to court. All of us know that once you crown the champion, the FIA will not have the appetite, whatever is the true finding of this cost of the budget cap. Whatever we all know, because precedent has been said last year. Last year, they knew they were wrong. The report came out in March. They admitted it, but they were never going to take the championship back. So this year, I was looking at Ferrari last week already when I started finding out about this, and I'm thinking, why are these teams not fighting at least to say, very minimum, make a decision before Japan? Make a decision that says, we're taking away 15 points from you, my guy, now go racing. This kind of things. And my worry sometimes is this the same thing that happened last year with Mercedes. Mercedes did not, in my view, Mercedes tried to be too PR pretty instead of actually fighting this. And once you do that, then you set a precedent that says, hey, these guys can do whatever they want. And that's my worry with what is happening in the sport. I support Ferrari, but when Michael Schumacher lost in 97, as a kid, I was upset, but then I understood, okay, whatever. But the rule was made in court, and it was what it was, And while no one sits here today and says Jacques Villeneuve is an illegitimate champion just because he won through a certain court proceeding that went back and said this was unfair. And I think sometimes we also have to look at it like that and say, let's also lobby our own teams to really push. I know Ferrari won't do it, but this kind of idea that says, no, the purity of the sport, it must always be on the track. But sometimes it won't be, because we can see what the FIA is doing.
But no, sorry to cut you there. There is no one. You talk about last season. Mercedes couldn't have fought last season. If they went to the High Court of the Arbitration of Sport, they are run by people who sit on the FIA. There's nothing that Mercedes could have done, because the FIA rule the motoring industry. There's no one that they could have gone to overturn that decision. No one.
Look, fair point. But the greater point I'm making, I'm not necessarily saying they would have won. Fair point to what you're saying, and that's the bigger problem that we have. But I'm just saying, it would be nice for me as a supporter of my team to feel like my team has done all, and the world can now see it so obviously bias like this. Because my worry sometimes is it ends up just being a case of, well, this is how we interpret this one line in the rule book, and therefore it's okay. Someone made a good point earlier, and they said, even if it's 0.5 of a second, what is 0.5 of a second every lap for 60 laps? It's the kind of thing we saw today when this guy's disappeared into the distance with only 28 laps. It's craziness. And the unfortunate thing is, and I don't care so much for Max, but I look at it and I think this particular human being, just him as a human being now, both of his championships are tainted. I can't sit there and say for a fact that this, I know for a fact he didn't win last year, definitely, we all know that. But even this year, I don't know how much of it is him and how much of it is the cheating by the team, you know? And that's very unfair just on the individual, because one day we're going to be sitting with this guy sitting on 5 championships, on 7 championships, and definitely one has an asterisk, if not should have been scrapped. And this one has a huge asterisk for me, you know? And so I'm just saying that it would be so nice if we could see teams fighting these things before certain decisions happen. It's almost like you have to be smart sometimes. And I think Red Bull are very street smart. If I put aside any controversies about who is boys with who, because maybe there's also that, to be honest. But if we put that aside, since we can't prove it for a fact, to me, I'm looking at Red Bull and I'm thinking, as much as I hate what is happening, they are playing the referee. They know how to play the referee better than everybody else, clearly, you know, and it's unfortunate. But at some point, we need the other teams to become more street smart. It'll ruin the sport, maybe, but maybe once everybody is in the scrap, then everybody's going to realize, you know what, let's go back and relook at this whole thing. Because right now, the biggest bully in the playground is getting away with a lot of stuff because everybody else then says, well, you know what, my mom said I must turn the other cheek. And that's how it feels sometimes for me. But other than that, I think next year, hopefully, Mercedes improves and are closer. Alpine looks fine. McLaren, hopefully, and then hopefully my own personal team can improve and hopefully we have something better, because as I look at it, Red Bull are going to do this again next year, and no one is going to do anything about it.
Thanks. I salute you for being a Ferrari fan through those through strategies and Ferrari being Ferrari. But I'll be honest, I do support Red Bull. I'm going to take my bias aside. Red Bull are playing the referee at the minute. They are playing them well. They know how to get away with things, if you get me. And I do think that you can, yes, I have said in the past, Lewis was robbed last year, and I I do think we're going to look back in a few years' time and say Max has gone to win a few more championships. Definitely, those championships will look tainted, if you get me.
Absolutely.
You know, I think I just have a quick question, because the 1997 championship, it was JV that won it. And when Schumacher's points when he got kicked out of the championship, he wasn't actually the champion. And I'm just wondering, has the FIA ever thrown out an actual champion, or have they only ever chucked out people who were like lower down the running? Because I can't remember.
I don't recall them ever demoting a championship, and I think I've been watching the races since the end of the 1970s. I've never witnessed anything like this. That's for certain. But to my recollection, I've never known of FIA or any of the, if there are any other governing bodies that have kicked out a sitting world championship, and I'm not very hopeful that that is going to occur now.
Well, seeing as the race was on at 6 o'clock in the morning, I've got plenty of time to go and research that. So we'll see.
I think the previous speaker, because I can't see the tape fully.
I need to break some news. Gasly has just been given a penalty by the FIA.
Oh,
shut up!
He's
Well,
been
there you
given.
You're
He has
joking.
been. He has been given. I have the drive-through penalty added to Gasly's race time: 20 seconds and 2 penalty points.
he needs to go to race control right now,
What?
burn it down.
I
What
will
for?
share the tweet. Chris Medland has just tweeted it.
What for?
He said, except he was driving too quickly under red flag conditions, as there could be marshals on track. Stewards accept mitigating factors of shock of seeing a truck on track.
Man, fuck them. Okay, sorry for the language, but fuck them.
The thing is, I mean, if you look at it, there's so many different ways to look at this. As far as FIA is probably concerned, is coming out and issuing these penalties in the way that they are doing is their way of saying we're in charge of the sport, but they don't actually see it from where we're sitting. And that there's no, how can I say, there's no impartiality. All they do is they just see it from their standpoint. Max and Red Bull seem to be the recipients of all of this. You only have to look to qualifying yesterday to see that. And they turn a blind eye to that. And what people are saying about Red Bull as the referees, because they are, when it suits them to object to somebody, FIA seem to sit up and take notice. But when the other teams come up with points about about the car, about the now famous cost cap, they seem to be looking to protect them by saying, okay, we were going to announce it last Wednesday. It should have been out. We should have all known. Now they're going to say we're going to announce it on Monday. Yeah, it could well be that they will. Yeah, because job done. Max has got the championship, and there has never been a case where a sitting champion has been demoted. So don't be surprised. We'll see it if we see it tomorrow, and they say, okay, it was only 250,000 over, and we'll give them a $15,000 fine, and that will be the end.
I find this is what I'm saying, that they can't set a precedence, and like I said, the FIA president now needs to step down, like seriously, because he has no clue of how to run this, to govern the sport in regards to the rules. He has to step down, or they need to be challenged. I wish is it the IC, there's another independent body who can make suggestions. Someone was saying it in the last space that there's another independent. I think it's the who stripped all Russian sports guys to represent their country in any sport. Charlie, remind me, who is it?
Bro, you're on a different level to me right now. When it comes to stuff on Russia and the East, I'm like,
there's
Is it?
No, for that, I think that was for every sport that always comes in, no matter what sport it is. I think.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it was no. I confused it. I thought he was talking about like the whole duping thing. I remember you talking about like the whole war thing. But yeah, I think that was for just every sport, including football, whatever sport any Russian was taken in, they were stripped of like the flags and everything like that. So I think every sport had to partake in that.
Poor Gasly, I feel it for him. Like, I would seriously question. Yeah, I would seriously question their judgment. Like, you put a tractor on the track to clear the car in these conditions. Like, how? So Baxley, go on, bro. I'll speak after you, bro. I ain't got nothing to say at the present moment.
Yeah, that Gasly penalty is an absolute joke. Like, okay, he's accepted that he was driving too quickly, and then they've also acknowledged the fact that there was a shock. But just apply some common sense, people. Really, I mean, this is one of the problems with the FIAs and the stewards, is that they're not doing that. They're just not applying common sense to any situation. It's just utterly, utterly ridiculous. And I think the one thing that's highlighted today is I think the rule book has become so conflated. I mean, how can it be a situation where not even the most seasoned journalists and commentators don't know the rule about, according to the regulation, the awarding of full points was correct, and that's why Max has won the championship. But how can they not know what the rule is? And we've kind of had to go scrabbling around. Red Bull didn't know what the rule was. Mercedes didn't know what the rule was. They kind of had to go and double check it and be like, "Oh, all right." I think when I said earlier that Freitas and Whittick and Herbie Blash need to sit down, they could probably do with just analysing a couple of the rules and just sort of not scrapping them, but rewording them and streamlining everything as well. Because I think the rule book kind of got very conflated when Charlie Whiting was in charge. That's because he wrote the damn thing. And he understood the rule book because he was the one writing everything. Whereas you've got these guys stepping in, and you can put Mazzy in this conversation as well. These guys stepping in and kind of getting themselves into a situation where they don't understand the nuances of some of the rules because they're just looking at it on a piece of paper. How can you give Gasly a penalty for that? It would have been, an easy win for them to say, look, he was driving too quickly, but there were some extenuating circumstances, no action to it. but instead they give him a 20-second penalty and 2 points on his license. I mean, yeah, they seem to have this ability to be able to see a way around the messy situation, and then they just go, "No, we're just going to put our foot in it anyway." It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I'm going to pop off in a minute, as I said, because I've got to get to work in a couple of hours. But I think tomorrow for the budget cap, I think we're going to see I think if anyone is found guilty, because we don't know as of yet, but if anyone is found guilty of breaching the cap, I think I doubt we'll see any championships change, even though I think we should. Ross Brawn said it very clearly. These rules have teeth. You will lose your championships. And even if they're minor infractions, you can take drivers' points off. And with how close it was last year, people should be losing their championships over this. And I think it's not going to happen. And I think, 21 is now further tainted than it already is. And it raises question marks over 22 if that's the case. Just a bad day for the sport when we should be celebrating a world champion, but we can't. And when we should be celebrating a return to Suzuka, but we can't. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the space, guys, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Baxby. Enjoy working, but and as well, the points it brings Gasly up to 9 points out of 12, and I think that's unnecessary. But Josie, what's my order?
There is no order. It's just me. Unless
Okay.
anyone else wants to speak, just let us know. I was just going to say, okay, so they're going to punish Gasly because he was speeding. He was going over his delta or whatever they've decided that he's doing under a red flag. Okay, that's fine. If Gasly's broken a rule and he needs to be held accountable for what he did, then fine. But are we not finding that the FIA never seem to be actually accountable for any of the mistakes they made? Yes, Pierre has an obligation to drive safely and within the speed limitations to ensure the safety of people who are on the track. Why are the FIA not being held accountable and being in some way punished for when they don't uphold their obligation to keep drivers safe on the track? Okay, he drove too fast and he put a marshal at risk. That is, under normal circumstances, that's unacceptable. But the FIA put a tractor within the white lines of the track while they knew that car was still there. So they've put Pierre in just as much danger as that marshal was. So where is the kind of the transparency in terms of them holding their hands up and going, we actually messed up. This is what we're going to do about it. I mean, fine them. Tell them that they don't get as much profit out of whatever they're doing. Make them put the money into charity. Make them put the money into sustainability. Do something that shows that the organisation are actually accountable for their actions as well. Because, Pierre, I mean, I know I said yesterday, and I'm kind of being a hypocrite when I say you can't judge an incident on what could have happened, because that's exactly what I'm about to do. But if that had gone wrong and Pierre had aquaplaned at the exact same point that Carlos did, you could be looking at a second Jules Bianchi. Straight up. It's exactly the same scenario with a tractor and a car in wet conditions. So what are the FIA going to do about that? How are they going to justify putting a driver in that dangerous scenario when they know? Because 7 years ago, in the exact same place, they had to put in numerous safety limitations to protect drivers, that they're just going to do it again. They're the bullies because they do what they want, and then when they turn around and go, you messed up, they're like, Massey did it. Gasly was too fast. There's always a reason why they're not the ones who have to take account, and it's annoying me. It's annoying me massively. So, yeah, I'm annoyed again now. Doing my ironing to try and take away the rage.
Before we get to the hands up, as well, you made a point earlier, Josephine, that I think back to as well that Brundle made the point that it should be a red flag when Carlos crashed. If straight away, say if say Lewis, because Lewis was the nearest one at the time, could have went into Carlos, we could have had an Antoine Hubert situation where I know it was a high-speed crash, but still an impact with Lewis going at about nearly 250 miles kilometers an hour into the side of Carlos will cause.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't think even the FIA moved that fast on the trigger to be able to put a red flag out to stop Lewis going past Carlos, that quickly. But for the the collecting and the debris on track, like they've done that for worse. Not for worse. Sorry, they've done it for less debris on track. Cars stopped on the side and they've red flagged it. Schumacher in I know it was the barrier, but they still had to remove the car. They've done red flags for less terrible situations. Why not just roll it out and then everyone's happy?
Okay, I've realised that we're all running on sleep, so the people who have their hands up will be the last speakers up to space because I want to go get some sleep. So it's the bearded Anthony and Bambini. So the bearded, go ahead.
My comment on the Gazdi situation is similar in a way to what some people have said, and the funny thing with it is, even if they say Pierre has admitted to driving too fast, then at what point does the FIA also then have to hold up their hand? Because the rule, according to me, you are allowed to catch up. If it was sunny, it happens all the time. But maybe they are punishing him now because in the moment, in the current prevailing conditions, he was driving slightly too fast. But how about them then? They're gonna say, well, marshals are always on the track, but in these conditions, and as everyone has said, in this particular track, and exactly being the same vehicle that killed someone, took someone's life before, at what point are they also going to say, in the same breath, we acknowledge this? Because then the FIA seem to also be understanding the spirit of the rules that they have to apply. My worry with the FIA is this: whenever something happens on the track, I sometimes get the mental picture, because they don't show us anymore race control like they used to before. I sometimes get the picture that it takes them 75% of the lap after the incident has happened, and everyone is probably running around trying to look at a rule book. I don't get the sense, and I'm not saying, I mean, maybe Charlie Whiting had been doing this for years, and maybe the controversies hadn't been as much, but I don't get the sense, and of course this is not factual, but I don't get the sense that they've got a finger on the pulse of the sport. If an accident happens on a certain corner, it's one question: is the car on track or is there an escape route? No, there isn't. Okay, this is a decision. They should be at a level where they can make those kind of decisions quicker, because everything is for safety first and everything else. I get the sense sometimes that they try to think, who is it? What kind of backlash are we going to get if we make this decision? And all of that other stuff that then taints and makes us, the fans, start to question their credibility the way we are doing, and we have every right to. I don't know, like I've been hearing guys talking about the guy resigning. Probably these guys won't resign, unfortunately, but hopefully maybe some people can put enough pressure. But I don't see that happening. I also don't see a different governing body coming in to govern these guys. But except maybe if the enough teams start to put enough pressure, but I also don't see that happening, as my first point that I put out. I really wish we could get to a point where we all know what is happening every time, and we can all trust what the decisions they're going to make at any given time are for the purity of the sport, and let's go. Someone just made a good comment about common sense. I personally feel, if I assume, because I would like to assume it's honestly not because they're really in bed with Red Bull. If I put that aside, I just feel like these guys are not competent for what they're doing. They don't understand the true nature of the sport and what needs to happen at any given time. And now, because of last year, and that's why last year had to be changed, had to be corrected. Because of last year, they are so scared to make a decision that no one is actually making a decision anymore. And they now go on with this idea of which is the path of least resistance. Well, we know Red Bull is a rock because Red Bull will fight for their rights. Okay, well then we'll just go with the other guy, and then over time you build up this very big snowball effect of always penalizing teams that are not a certain team, and then it's such a horrible look in the end. Just like today, that incident, by the time 4 cars passed Carlos, it should have been a red flag. All of us knew that. It should have been a red flag. Maybe like someone just said, Lewis passed, he was too quick. He was right behind him. But by the time the last car passed there, it should already have been a red flag. Simple. We don't need a fire like we had with, what was his name? The French guy, when he almost died, for them to press that button quicker. There's a lot of other things that can happen on track that need that kind of decision, because someone who's using common sense should be thinking, oh, he aquaplaned. Okay, at corner so and so and corner so and so, it's going to happen again. So let's just stop. Those are quick decisions that need to be made by people who understand the sport, rather than people who are just lawmakers and trying to read a rule book mid-race.
Anthony?
So just let me see if I can't understand this now. So did the red flag come before Gasly, or when he got up to the point where the incident took place? Just so I can clarify that to me before I just execute these FIA fools. So when Gasly came up to the tractor, did the red flag come out afterwards?
As I understand it, looking from the onboard, when he got to the tractor, it was still yellow, but then afterwards it went red, if you get me.
Okay, so the FIA want to then penalise him, so that he was speeding too fast before the tractor, and there's a marshal there. Well, one, his team needs to challenge it, like, seriously. Two, if you're saying that he was speeding up when the tractor is there, how many other cars are speeding when the tractor was there? Like, was it only him, or was there others? That's another question I want to ask. Was he the only one who's speeding up towards the tractor, or was there others before them when the tractor was present?
They didn't bring the tractor out until all of them had passed, except for Pierre, because he'd stopped when he collected the advert hoarding. So he was the only car on track that hadn't passed the tractor when the tractor came out.
So okay. So they're basically trying to, yeah, boy. Yeah, the FIA, I would challenge it, because obviously we all know what happened to Jules, and you want to send marshals out in those conditions, then that they're risking their life. Like, do it when all the cars have gone, not when there's potentially another car that's going to be coming around. But then they're turning and said, because there was yellow flags that he should have slowed down, etc., blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I'll have to watch it back again, because I was in and out of sleep trying to watch this shit show of a race today. So I need to watch it back. But if the FIA are going on with their stupidness again, they're all incompetent. Last year was bad. This year, the controversy again is just like, when is it going to end? I'm sorry to say, but yeah, this sport is tarnished again.
Yeah, I sorry about, but I just want to add to some about the whole Gasly safety car situation. Yeah. And after Gasly, right, they made like 2 rounds. The first round where Gasly passed, it didn't have any trucks or tractor or whatever, anything there. He had the board, he went to go and take a pit. But when he passed again, and I think this is where the kind of get justified for this. I'm not saying that the FIA correct or anything, because they did have the truck there. But what happened after was that whole sector, it had a double waved yellow.
Yeah, where you're supposed to slow down. Yeah, we all know this.
Right. And as we all know from last year in Qatar, whatever how you pronounce it, when Max was speeding through that double wave yellow, he did get a penalty. I think he got like a 6th place grid penalty as well. So the way how I see it is, it had a double waved yellow flag. It changed to a red flag, and like as Gasly was coming through there, he just got the penalty because it was a double wave yellow before.
But they're saying about the red flag incident indicated into turn 12. That's where I just want to clarify in regards to that. Are they trying to penalise him for the red afterwards, in terms of the red flag came out? To say that he was still speeding when the red flag was there. Is that what they're trying to say?
Yeah, sorry, repeat that there. I was kind of breaking up, I think.
So I was saying, because what I'm seeing is that red flag incident turned 12. Was he speeding when the red flag was there? This is what I'm trying to clarify. Like, have they again got it wrong in terms of their decision? Was he speeding under the red flag conditions, or what?
It certainly sounds like that's what they're trying to say, because otherwise it would be the punishment would be a penalty for speeding under double wave yellows. So if the paperwork is saying that he was speeding under red flag, then it will be from the moment the red flag was waved. But having said that, if obviously the delta's lower on a red flag, if he was speeding past the tractor, then that penalty hasn't got anything to do with the tractor. That's away from the situation. That's a completely separate incident because he was past that vehicle by that point. So they're not actually, the FIA are completely ignoring the tractor, and they're just talking about speeding under red flags.
Yeah, well, I think they need to appeal that decision, because it looks like the FIA are just being trigger happy in regards to what punishment they need to dish out left, right, and like, we are going to enforce the rules now. But when it comes to other teams, they're not doing so. Like, where people are saying that they want to come together next year to thrash out how to implement the rules. There's no faith that they're going to do that next season again, and this all's going to come around with Red Bull. If Red Bull have an advantage next season, then there is something wrong with this sport, and there has to be another independent body who has to come into this equation with the FIA and seriously put them under pressure to make the right decisions. Like, seriously, when we go over to Monday, if Red Bull have an advantage next season, it's going to be peak. It is really going to be peak for next season, because that shows that the FIA and Red Bull are in bed together, or that they've made some dirty deals underneath the table that will suit Red Bull's benefit down to a T in regards to this cost cap. I feel sorry for Gasly in this aspect. I feel sorry for him for what they've done, because we all know what happened with Jules Bianchi. And yet, they don't want to take that into consideration, that you've put a tractor in there. Supposing he lost the back end of the car and he went plan into that, it would have been part two. It would have been part two, but the FIA, they just want to throw out penalties. They don't even think. I don't even think they're thinking logically. I just think it's just a rash decision that they've done. So hopefully that they can appeal AlphaTauri can appeal the decision going forward in regards to this, and he doesn't get that, because it'll be a shame that they're just doing it on a whim. They're not considering all other factors. They're just saying, okay, yeah, he did this, he did that, but they're not actually going by the evidence that is there, going forward. So we'll just have to wait and see. But tomorrow's going to be very interesting. But yeah, that's me, because I know, Rory, you're tired, and so am I, man. So I'll let one speaker go, and then, yeah.
It's okay, Anthony. Thanks for your opinions today and your inputs as well. And it's our last speaker is Bambini. Is that right?
Dan Beam, are you there?
Maybe there just really is nothing to say. We're all speechless.
Yeah. Give me a minute. I need to do something. So 1 minute. I did share to the space that, if I'm amiss, before it ended, that Alonso and Vettel over the line were 1 millisecond between each other. I shared video, it's like a photo finish basically. But 1 minute before the end of the space.
I think the most important thing before we do end the space, and it does need to happen because I'm shattered, is that Latifi got points. I know that we've talked about it before, but let's not forget Latifi is now joint 20th in the 21, well, technically 22 if you count Hulkenberg driver season. And yeah, the GOAT came through. So very pleased. That's the big silver lining in today's race, that Latifi got points because Carlos and Lando did absolutely nothing.
Max Verstappen, you are the world champion.
Sorry, I've just put something in the space by Rob Myers. I don't know how true this is, but apparently there's a leaked statement for tomorrow. So I don't know how true that is, if it's a joke. Or...
I just want to come and interrupt you. If you're talking about the statement from FIA leak or whatever, that whole statement is just a joke. That same person leaked a statement earlier.
Wait. What is this? There's too many things in the space. I'm too tired to be scrolling this far. Oh, I'm going to have to look at it outside of the space, I think. Rory, are you still there? I swear, if you're out there recording a snippet of Red Bull paraphernalia, then I'm going to be so mad with you when you get back here.
No, I'm looking at the statement right now.
Oh, okay, that's all right then. What?
I can share it if I want. Can let me share it? I've shared it again there. So yeah. Now, considering the one that, remember the one that someone shared, I think it was fake in the end. That one, this one does look a bit like proper FI release wise, but I don't. We'll have to find out tomorrow. But if that's true, it's basically saying that Red Bull, all teams are in compliance. There's some.
Brilliant. So I'll just pull up a seat tomorrow and wait for Twitter to completely melt down. Because that's going to kick everything off tomorrow.
Rob Myers has just tweeted it's wind up. It's not real.
Thank God for that.
Okay, thank God, because that's just going to cause even more chaos. No, Josephine, I am recording a snippet at the minute, so Max Verstappen is the GOAT. Finally got
okay,
that.
space over. That's it. Get out.
I'm leaving now. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to bed now, and yeah, I'm sure I'll probably still be angry when I wake up. But anyway, goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good space.